Good morning and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Arkansas Storm Team Live at 11 o'clock. I'm meteorologist Juliana Cullen. Thank you for joining us today. I just finished putting a little post on Facebook, X, and Instagram about Arkansas Storm Team Live today at 11 o'clock. Lots to talk about in the Weather Center. And I want to know your weather questions. So make sure that you're sending in those questions. You can send it in a comment on my post on Facebook, X, or Instagram, or you can send me a message at my email. It's jcullen@kark.com. I'll be checking those throughout the show for today. I want to remind you that Arkansas Storm Team Live is every day at 11 a.m. weekdays. So thanks for joining us. We also have them again at 3 o'clock weekdays as well. So you can always join us 2 times for weather information. But if you ever miss a part of it and you need more details on the forecast, it's always right above me, Arkansas Storm Team app. I just posted a new forecast video on that maybe 15, 20 minutes ago, talking about the weather. So if you miss a certain part and you want to check back in there, that's also something that you can check as well. Okay, just making sure everything is posted here, just how it should post. And then we are good to go with Arkansas Storm Team Live. So lots to talk about for today. Obviously, we have our chance for winter weather coming up this weekend. And I will tell you, not really looking much like a chance anymore, as it is looking like we are going to see winter weather this weekend. The chance is just, are you going to see snow, sleet, freezing rain, a mix of both? How much? Those are the things that we still need to really nail down. So first, I kind of wanted to go over our forecasting process. You might have seen this a lot on social media the last couple days. When it comes to forecasting weather, we have certain weather models that can show us weather forecasts out a day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 10 days, climate models that really look far into the months ahead of us. And, some are more accurate than others. Predicting weather and predicting the future is not a perfect science. We do the best we can. So as we get closer, the confidence goes up and we can really fine tune those details. So we're bouncing around right now between 3 and 4 days before really the onset of this system moving in. So we're still kind of watching the patterns. How are these models performing run after run? Do they look the same? Are there big differences? And we're kind of fine-tuning that timing and impacts for you. Right now, we're still a little too far to talk exact snowfall totals. I can give you kind of the broad idea of what we're thinking. We're too far out to talk about who is only going to see ice, who's going to see a mix, and who's going to see snow. But I can give you a little bit of a wide look at that. But this is one of those forecasts that you want to keep checking back in over the next couple of days, because we're going to continue to run this data, look at the trends, and fine-tune that forecast for you. So the forecast you get from me today is probably going to be a little bit different from the one you tune in for tonight and then the one you see me give tomorrow morning. As we get closer and closer, we're fine-tuning that for you and trying to make it the most accurate one so you can plan your weekend, because I know people have things planned. They might have family coming into town. They might be traveling. I just had someone come into the Weather Center. Their friend is going on a cruise. They want to know what time their flight's going to be. Everyone has life that they need to be dealing with, and I know that an accurate forecast helps you do that. So first, I want to talk about tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, it will not snow. Let's talk about that. But it will be raining tomorrow morning as you step out the door. So we're all really thinking about this weekend, of course, because it could be an impactful winter weather event. But I don't want you to get caught off guard tomorrow morning that you are going to need the umbrella as you get ready to head out the door. So today, we're dry for the rest of the day. If you're going to be out and about, you're going to the grocery store, you're going to work, kids are going to school, no worries weather-wise. Tonight, 9, 10 o'clock, we should be dry, but after midnight, some really light showers might be moving in. And I think tomorrow morning, 4, 5 o'clock, pretty much widespread light rain. There will be breaks here and there, but already be thinking about tomorrow morning. maybe give yourself a little bit of extra time for that morning commute, and pack the rain gear for the kids at the bus stop, certainly, because it will be raining out there. Kind of looks like only a first half of the day scenario. So rain in the morning, and then it really starts to push out of here. So it will make rush hour kind of soggy, but we should be drying out by 12, 1 o'clock. So the kids will need the rain gear to go to school, but by the time they get off the bus, it should stop raining. We need the rain. It is dry out there. This rain will help out with drought conditions, and any winter weather that we see is also going to help out with drought conditions eventually, because that will be water. It's just going to be frozen water that's coming down, and once it melts, that'll help out too. But this is our first chance of rain coming up on Wednesday. Then we are dry on Thursday. But Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday is the day that we're going to have to watch for our possibility for some winter weather. And again, really not a possibility anymore. It looks like a pretty much done deal that we are going to be seeing frozen precipitation. Bitter, bitter cold also in the forecast. And this is one thing that I really don't want to not underemphasize. The cold is going to be prolonged, and it is going to last several days. And if we think about here in the South, when we see temperatures below freezing for multiple days, that's something where we could see busted pipes. So we want to prepare now. That's something that looks very certain. As we move towards winter weather, our confidence has been increasing in this. Now, the one thing that really isn't set in stone yet, but I can tell you the pieces are coming together a little bit more, is the type of precipitation. You might think it's going to be cold. Of course, it's all going to fall as snow. But we got to think about the atmosphere in layers. So what is the temperature at the surface? Cold enough for snow. What is the temperature a little bit above that? What is the temperature up in the clouds? What is the temperature all the way in the levels of the atmosphere? And that kind of tells us about what kind of precipitation we might be seeing falling out there. And that will greatly kind of depend on your snowfall totals, your freezing rain totals, your sleet totals of what the atmosphere looks like. Let me pull up that explainer here. And we'll kind of talk about the different layers of the atmosphere. Here it is. I love this map. So this tells you kind of the differences between winter precipitation. So up in the clouds, it's cold. It's always cold in the clouds. It's always cold up there. And the precipitation will come down, and as it hits the warmer layers in the air, it pretty much all falls as rain. That is normal rain. That's what we get a lot of the time. Freezing rain is when the precipitation comes out of the clouds as frozen precipitation as snow, and then it kind of warms up in the middle layer of the atmosphere. That's when you have a warm layer aloft. You might hear us talking about that. That warm layer aloft melts the snow, and then it's really cold at the surface, and then it immediately freezes on the surface. That's something that we could see depending on how the setup kind of plays out, where we see that precipitation able to melt a little bit in the atmosphere and then freeze on contact. For me, I think that's worst case scenario is freezing rain. I just feel like freezing rain always just leads to a lot of problems on the roadways. It can get wrapped around power lines. It can cause power outages. It's really almost nearly impossible to drive on freezing rain. So I hope that we avoid that. I'm going to hope for a more sleet snow scenario. Sleet is kind of similar to freezing rain, but that bottom layer of the atmosphere right at the surface is just a little bit thicker. So precipitation comes down as snow, it melts, it starts to go back to rain, and then it refreezes, but it doesn't get all the way to snowflakes. It kind of stops as pellets, and that's where you hear that little pinging on your car. And then snow is what it's called all the way down. So we are going to have to watch the atmosphere very closely over the next couple days, and that's why these totals are really going to be hard, because if you see more freezing rain, that means less snow, that means lower snowfall totals. If you see more sleet, that means less freezing rain, lower snowfall totals, maybe a higher sleet total. I'm sure everyone, and I don't know if you've experienced it yourself. I've never had at my house a ton of sleet, but I've seen videos where you see a ton of sleet and it almost looks like Sonic ice outside, and it's thick. That can happen sometimes. So that's something we're going to have to watch for. But what everyone needs to be prepared for, the bottom line of this forecast, is a winter system is heading our direction. We're going to keep coming up with timing of that winter system and winter impacts for you, but that's kind of the bottom line of the forecast coming up over the next couple of days. So let's go right into the models for this morning. Now I'm going to show you two of our big forecast models that we're looking at. One is the GFS. This is the American model, and the other one is the European model. And these are two big forecast models that we look at a lot. to forecast winter weather and actually just forecast any different type of weather. So something we look for when we're looking at these models is consistency from run to run. These models come out every few hours and they change slightly. They're computer models. So are they staying consistent? That's something we like to see. That means confidence is growing in the forecast. Is the European and the GFS model, are they similar? Or are they both kind of out to lunch and different? That's something that we also kind of have to watch for. So let's roll through the GFS model. I'm going to start this Thursday at 11 o'clock. Remember, Thursday we're dry. No worries of any winter weather Thursday. The GFS model has this moisture starting to stream in by Friday morning into Friday afternoon. So it trends a little drier in the morning, pushing in by the afternoon as temperatures start to tumble. And it has a little bit of a mix at first, and then it kind of shows most of far southern Arkansas seeing more of that mix. Again, that could be a mixture of sleet, freezing rain, and maybe some snowflakes, and a larger area of snow covering most of the state Monday morning into Monday afternoon, and then really kind of starting to level off as we move overnight Saturday and into Sunday morning. This one kind of shows another push by Sunday afternoon and then pushing out by Sunday night. So that's the GFS model. Let's look at the European model. This shows moisture moving in early as Friday morning. Temperature is probably still going to be above freezing. And then by Friday afternoon, seeing more of that mix. Again, it's kind of similar with the northern half of the state trending more on the snow side, the southern half of the state trending more on the freezing rain, sleet side, and then continuing to push throughout the day, Saturday into Sunday morning, and pushing out by Sunday afternoon. So that is the difference of the two models, which overall they are fairly similar, which kind of gives us good confidence that, A, we're looking at this winter system moving through, for the most part, bullseye on Saturday. And secondly, we're looking at probably a majority snow situation, especially for the northern half of the state, and then a little bit more of a mixing situation for the southern half of the state as well. So here's what you could do now to prepare, because it's Tuesday. We still got all of today, Wednesday, and Thursday with no winter precip. Yeah, there's going to be some rain tomorrow morning, but it's going to be light. So today is the day to kind of start your prep work. I'm not saying you got to run to the grocery store and get milk and eggs, but maybe you want to get your grocery shopping done before Friday. That would probably be the best case scenario. So today, Wednesday or Thursday is the time you might want to get your grocery shopping done. Make sure you're kind of giving a tune-up on the house. Check the smoke detectors. Put fuel in the vehicle. This is something I'm always not good about. My dad reminds me, before you get a chance of snow, put some gas in the car. Let's do that for today and kind of gather your supplies. You know, sometimes, especially if we have snow, especially over a weekend, hopefully not everyone has to go out on the roads, go to work. You know, it's the weekend. We don't have school. So thinking about supplies you'll want for in the house, maybe some games to keep the kids entertained, maybe some sleds if the kids want to go outside. So that kind of stuff. As we move a little bit closer to the day before, that's when you're really going to want to be checking the forecast. Because again, we kind of talked about the forecast process. We're getting these models in every few hours. We're checking out that new data every few hours. I came in this morning, 4:50, I was forecasting. I'm already doing a new forecast for the noon show. We're showing you new details, fine-tuning that forecast. They're going to do it again for the 4 o'clock, 5, 5:30, 6, 6:30, 9, 10. All going to be new data for you that we're slowly analyzing. So you're going to want to check back on the forecast. Make sure, as we're getting closer and closer, be thinking about your plans. Maybe you had plans to be out and about on Saturday. Can you move that? Could you maybe do it on Thursday? Can you do it next weekend? That kind of thing. And you want to make sure we are checking on friends and family, pets. Are your pipes good before that prolonged cold comes in? That's kind of things we want to do as we move towards the next couple of days. So let's talk about impacts out there, because the first thing, whether you get sleet, whether you get freezing rain, whether you get snow, everyone is impacted by the cold. I'll say that again. Everyone is impacted by the cold. And this looks like an Arctic blast of cold air that is going to be pushing into the state. And that means a prolonged period of temperatures below freezing. For most of us, it's going to be 48 hours plus below freezing. So that is enough to burst pipes. My least favorite thing is burst pipes. So we got to remember, we got to drip those pipes, open up the cabinets so you can get some nice airflow for your pipes. Wind chills will be below zero. Think about the pets. If you're cold, They're cold. Let's bring them inside. Think about your friends and family. Be checking on each other. Be a good neighbor. And you also want to make sure, when we get this cold snap, ponds might freeze, but it does not mean that ice is near thick enough to stand. So make sure you're staying off those surfaces. We want to make sure we keep everyone very safe during this. I know it's fun to play outside in the snow. I'm an adult. I like playing outside in the snow, but let's stay off those frozen ponds to make sure we're keeping everyone as safe as possible. Let's talk about travel impacts, because I know just because it's the weekend, some people still have jobs that you have to travel on the weekend. Emergency responders, doctors, nurses, there's a lot of people that still have to travel sometimes when we have inclement weather. So be preparing now. Snow is likely going to cover the roads. We might have ice in some spots of the state too. At times, especially if you have to travel when snow is coming down, we can have reduced visibility. I would prepare for some road closures as well. A really great asset during winter weather is RDOT's website. When they have winter weather, they get a different kind of map on there that highlights the interstates that are snow covered, ice covered, kind of patchy, if there's any road closures, and that's something really good to kind of check in on. If you are flying, I have had some people ask me about certain flights. It's too early to tell you if your flight's going to be delayed, but I can tell you the later you're flying out on Saturday, the dicier things are looking. So you want to make sure you're staying tuned to your airline. And maybe just check in some alternate flights in case your flight does get canceled. And then this is always a good one year round to make sure that you have an emergency kit in your car. Just keep it in the trunk or something just in case. I was always one of those people that thought that I would never get caught in the snow because I've driven in the snow so much. I grew up somewhere where we did see a decent amount of snow. The last TV station that I worked at, we did see a decent amount of snow too. And I'd driven through a lot of snow. But you can get caught in the snow and then can't go anywhere. And that happened to me last year. And so I got a new appreciation for keeping an emergency kit in your car and keeping some things in your car in case you do get stuck. Because even if you're a really excellent driver in the snow, sometimes your car is just not going to go. That happens sometime. It happened to me 2 times last year. And you just have to kind of make sure you're trying to stay as safe as possible, but keep that emergency kit in the car. Hopefully you'll never have to use it, but you will be happy you have it if you ever do have to use it. And let's talk about power outage impacts. This is something I really hope doesn't happen, but it's a real reality of an ice forecast. More snow. Typically, you don't see a lot of power outages because the snow is not going to hang on to the power lines and pull them down. More ice, more outages. The ice will fall, remember, as rain hits the surface and immediately freezes. So it'll freeze right along those power lines. And if you really start to get an accumulation of ice, it weighs down on those power lines and they go down. And think about what we just talked about, traveling in the ice. It's difficult. So those linemen and women that are going to try and restore power, it is difficult for them to travel in that as well. So we're going to hope for a less ice situation. In my mind, the best case scenario is sleet and snow. We're really going to hope for that. But I do think there will be a chance for some ice. So let's prepare for that. Be careful with space heaters as well. And make sure you have carbon monoxide detectors that are working. That's something you can do today. Make sure you check them. Do they need new batteries? That's definitely something to check in. So as far as the impacts for this system goes, it's our first big winter weather system of the season. Right now, it looks like the power outage map is going to probably not have a ton of impacts. Again, I think we will have the chance for ice, but a lot of the ice looks to maybe be south of us and to portions of Louisiana and Texas. So we're going to hope to not have a ton of ice, but I do think we'll probably have a lot of closings and some travel issues. And then again, I think freezing temps is definitely going to be something that we really have to watch for. So that is the latest on the forecast, but I want to get to your questions. And in order to do so, I'm just going to take a quick 2-minute break so I can check my messages. But remember, if you do have a question, a certain area you want to know about, a certain part of the forecast that you want me to go through again, send it to me, Facebook, X, Instagram, or my email, jcullen@krk.com, and we'll answer those coming up in 2 minutes after a quick break. to Arkansas Storm Team Live at 11 o'clock. I'm meteorologist Juliana Cullen. We just took a quick commercial break because I wanted to check my inboxes and see what kind of messages we have about our winter system heading our direction. And just a reminder that anytime during the live stream, you can always ask questions about this on my Facebook, my X, my Instagram, my email, and I will be happy to answer those questions for you. But the biggest question that we had from one viewer was, when is it going to start to melt? And I love that question because we're already thinking ahead of when it is going to melt. So that's kind of an interesting scenario that we have. When it's going to melt is probably not a great answer, but it's going to depend, one, on how much snow, how much sleet, how much freezing rain you might get. Think about all of that frozen precipitation as ice packs. And the more ice packs that you put in your lunchbox, the colder your lunchbox is, and the longer it stays cold. That's the same way that snow, sleet, and ice kind of act when they hit our ground. You know, I forecast the temperatures now to maybe hit freezing by Monday, but if we get more snow on the ground than expected, that'll kind of act like an ice pack, and it'll keep us colder for longer. So the first way to melt freezing precipitation is to get above freezing. Hopefully by Monday we do that. If not Monday, it looks like we could do it by Tuesday. However, you can still have melting when it's below freezing if it's sunny outside, because the sun does warm up the frozen precipitation on the ground. So if it's 28 degrees and it's sunny outside and the sun's beating down on that precipitation, there will be some melting. It's not going to be a ton, but it will help. So we need the sunshine and we need temperatures to get above freezing. And right now in the extended forecast, I'll pull that one up for you, I have us getting to 32 degrees by Monday. I think let's go to it. Yes, by Monday, and then maybe up in the 40s by Tuesday. And look, Monday is sunny as well, so that would also be some good news. So hopefully by Monday we start to see some melting, but I do anticipate that travel is probably going to be very difficult on Sunday. Almost probably as difficult as what Saturday is, just because of the temperature and just because I don't think we're going to see any sunshine. So it's really going to take until Monday or Tuesday for us to really start to see some significant melting and for things to really start to become a little bit easier as far as travel goes and whatnot. So that's the update on the melting. I also want to mention we did issue some Arkansas Storm Team alert days for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday, the onset of the winter storm. Saturday, the majority of the impacts. And Sunday, some lingering impacts, but the very frigid cold. Many of us are looking at 50, 60, 70, 80 hours of below freezing temperatures. And so by Sunday, all the precipitation might have fallen and you think we're good, but we're still dealing with those frozen temperatures. We could still have some busted pipes. So it's definitely something we'll still have to watch for. So 3 Arkansas Storm Team alert days, which means also we will just be here round the clock giving you information. Remember, you can always find more details on the Arkansas Storm Team app. So let's go over the forecast one more time before we're finished for here today. Likelihood of accumulating snow looking very likely across much of Arkansas, with a mix across the southern portion of the state and down into parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and into Texas. I think the better chance for freezing rain is going to be south of the state. I hope that stays that way, because freezing rain is definitely can be very crippling, especially when it stays cold, then we don't warm up as much. But I will tell you that accumulating snow is looking likely for a good portion of the state Friday night through Sunday, but the majority of the impacts and the majority of the snow falling on Saturday. Let's run through 2 forecast models for you for this morning. One is the GFS and one is the European model. Both look kind of similar to me. Yesterday, they looked similar, but there were some differences. Today, they're kind of coming together a little bit more. We talked about at the beginning of the show, what we look for as meteorologists is consistency run to run. These models come out every few hours, depending on what model it is. We want to see them not changing much, keeping consistent. And we like to see all the different forecast models kind of coming together in agreement as well. So I will say the GFS kind of moves in a little bit later than the European model does. This is 7 o'clock, really not seeing a lot of precipitation pushing into the state as of yet. But then you see by 2, 3 o'clock, maybe starting to see a little mixed precipitation, and then mostly snow across a good portion of the state, a little mixed in southern Arkansas, and then that really continues through Saturday. And I will say the GFS starts later on Friday, but it lingers more into Sunday, maybe through the afternoon hours, dealing with that wintry precipitation and then pushing out of here by Sunday night. The European models kind of flip-flopped, starts earlier on Friday, but it gets out of here faster on Sunday. Let's roll through it. Friday, early, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, some light rain with a transition over to a wintry mix and some snow by Friday afternoon into Friday evening. Here's Saturday. Notice just like the GFS model, the majority of the snow does fall throughout the day on Saturday. This one shows a little bit higher likelihood of more of a sleet, freezing rain mix across the southern, almost half of the state. And then into Sunday morning, a little lingering precipitation, and then it pushes out of here Sunday afternoon. So both models are pretty consistent on Friday through Sunday. That's kind of the bottom line of this forecast. But one thing's to know that we're still about 3-4 days out. So the forecast could change a little bit as we move towards the next couple days. I know it's one of those forecasts where you don't want to check the weather a ton, but it's just one of those where it really is going to be beneficial to you to make sure you're checking the weather as much as you can, because we will be watching these models. We will be watching how the forecast kind of evolves, and we'll try and bring you the most detailed forecast. But what I can tell you right now is it does look like that winter weather is on the way for this weekend. So now is the time to prepare. You don't have to run to the grocery store today, but maybe get your grocery shopping done before Friday morning. You got today, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tomorrow morning it will rain, but it's just going to be mostly light, and we're going to be well above freezing, so that's some good news. And we're going to be dry on Thursday. It's really going to be Friday night into Saturday and Sunday that we're going to start to see this pushing through and really giving us the impacts. And even Sunday into Monday, I expect, depending on how much snow, sleet, freezing rain that we see, that travel is going to be pretty difficult until we can really see some prolonged sunshine and some temperatures above freezing. Good news is we've got a team of 6 talented meteorologists here with the Arkansas Storm Team that are going to be working different shifts, keeping you updated. So you'll want to stay tuned with us right here in the Arkansas Storm Team Weather Center, the Arkansas Storm Team app. I'm getting ready to go on the noon show, KRK4 News at noon, coming up in 30 minutes. I hope you join me there with more details on the forecast. Another live stream today at 3 o'clock. And then we have more details coming up this evening and into your forecast for tonight, tomorrow. Next couple days, we'll be here for you. So thank you for trusting the Arkansas Storm Team, and I am going to run the Arkansas Storm Team app a little bit bigger for you so you can take out your phone and scan that QR code for the last 2 minutes of this. And then, again, we'll see you tonight for our evening newscast, 4, 5, 5:36, 6:30, 9, and 10 on KRK and Fox 16. Have a great day.